So many people tell me all the time, whatever happened to Marc Clarke? Whatever? I always tell them Marc Clarke's my best friend. Marc Clarke is Olivia's godfather, and Marc Clarke is doing very well living in the D.C. area, doing his thing. So I finally got him pinned down for him to sit here and do a little interview with us to tell us what's been going on. So what's been going on? I feel like
Tony.
Gail and Oprah.
I know.
I know. What's up?
I
Gail.
Wait,
I don't want to know.
You know what? Gail.
Something
about Gail and Oprah.
They got a little,
hot thing going. It's weird. It's like the old, little sexy thing.
You know what? I don't know what it.
I'll take
I don't
that.
even want to know what it is. I just want, I just.
Do you agree?
Do you agree?
That
Gail and Oprah got something going on, like a grown woman sexy
I
thing
don't
going on?
watch them enough to know if they got something going on or not. I just know that they've been best friends forever, and when Oprah's on Gail's show in the morning, it's kind of awkward because she already knows the answers to the question she's going to ask Oprah.
Well, but see, will we have that same awkwardness in our relationship?
I think in a sense. Well, I know what you've been up to, but I want you to tell people watching what you've been up to, because you left in 1999. Yeah.
1999.
You abandoned me to follow the love of your life.
Man, see there, you know what?
No, but you know what? I was always happy for you, though, man. I always told you. I said I want you to be happy.
That's right.
I told you I want you to be happy. I didn't want you to leave, and I told you that, but I wanted you to be happy. And if being happy was being there with her, then that's what you had to do.
That's true.
Never mind that I couldn't get a raise for like 10 years. But you know what? Full disclosure here, though, you almost came back.
Well, yeah,
you did.
We wasn't as close.
We won't go into.
We wanted.
No, but we won't go into detail. But it was on the.
I was down.
It was on the table, and be honest, it was pretty close for like a few hours.
Yeah, but it was. The funny part about that, I think, was the. St. Louis really, professionally, was a town that I really felt the love, and always will. It's like family. St. Louis is family. Sure. And so, and Allison's experience in St. Louis also was that she was there briefly, but she really liked St. Louis. You know what I mean? I love St. Louis. Allison really liked St. Louis and would have come to love St. Louis if she was there longer, but she really did enjoy it. So going back to St. Louis was, definitely, we were definitely down. Money wasn't all the way right.
It was pretty. It was pretty good though.
Yeah, but I think the funny part about life is that the powers that be, I think one of the powers that be didn't believe that I was making that much.
Yeah.
And then the other was like, oh well, never mind. Which is funny,
Yeah.
So it was like the so that was the part, but and it was a moment in time. Where those days are over.
Well, let me tell you, from what happened on this side, though, was that I was told that you were asking for an amount of money that was way up there, and would I have a problem with it? And I was like, no, why would I have a problem with that? I just want them.
No, you never.
I just want them to come back. I don't care about the money.
Well, that was the other part.
Coming out of my pocket.
The learning experience on that part, which was, I think, unique in our situation because of how we felt about each other and how you felt about me. I mean, basically, they just really want to pay one person, But you always maintain, even though I was there before I left, you were like, look, just pay Mark what I'm. We'll make the same, whatever. Let's make it work. And powers that be really weren't listening to that. So that was never a scenario. Me making more, me making what you made was never a problem for you.
No.
But it was all interesting how, again, the imaging or how people think about it in our business. Because then when I came to St. Louis, when I came to Baltimore, it was kind of like the same thing. They just wanted to give one person the money, And,
that's in our business, though, that applies to a lot of things. I mean, because you look like satellite radio, Howard Stern's making $100 million, right?
Yeah.
Oprah makes quite a bit of money, but everybody else, and we know people who work in satellite radio. They're not making close, not even like a smidgen of what these guys are getting, because not everybody can get paid.
No, and I get it now. I mean, I get it now like you say, from a branding standpoint and the power of a brand and those things. And now, when we were coming up, we didn't hear it as much, but now everybody's talking about their brand. Everybody that has a show on the internet It's talking about their brand.
We
and
have
stuff,
to.
which is
Yeah.
true. It's true
Yeah.
though. It's true, and it does. The thing I realize about brand, and I think you see it most clearly in entertainment, music. Once you have established a brand is pretty.
Could be pretty
It
strong.
can live
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
And I think that the funny part is the artists don't realize the power of the
No.
brand. Like, a lot of we brought El DeBarge to DC before El had his comeback. At the time, he was really working closely with his brother Chico.
Okay.
So in El DeBarge's mind, he thought he really wasn't hot, and Chico was hot. Chico's never been as hot as El DeBarge, and never will be as hot as El DeBarge.
No.
And so when he came and everybody was there and it was packed, it was sold out, he didn't have a band. They just had to put a band together. He was just really blown away, like, wow, they really like me. And you're just like, dude, you're El DeBarge. You're like, hey, the DeBarge is like the broke light-skinned Jacksons. I mean, right? I mean, they always
dysfunctional.
right. The Barge guys were so good looking that even dudes were like, that's a pretty man. No homo.
No. Oh, watch out now.
But again, not realizing the power of the brand, and so that's why they do it though, because when you say Tony Scott, you're talking about
the movie director who jumped off the bridge.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, yeah. So yeah, man, all that, and yeah, almost came back, but man, things. I tell you what, So I leave St. Louis, follow Allison out here, and I land the biggest radio job of my career. Get married, have the 3 daughters. Things going really well. I mean, Allison is really probably the most popular morning anchor in DC. And I was probably one of the in Baltimore.
Don't be modest. Mark ran Baltimore. The big fat morning show was the bomb for what, 7 years? Beyond
yeah, about nine years.
Okay, 9 years.
Yeah.
That he ran that town as far as radio went in Baltimore.
Well, sadly, I didn't run it. I should have learned how to see. The entrepreneurial part was missing, but yes, we were popular and we did have much success. And again, Baltimore was like, again, St. Louis. It really, I fell in love with Baltimore. It was very similar to size and love of a
and
St.
crime.
Louis.
The crime's about the same.
And
So
crime. Oh, you can die in any city. you can go there. You can die quickly. You're at White Castle on Kings Highway at 2 o'clock. Your life.
Well, it could depend on what you order.
You're in downtown Baltimore at 2 o'clock. Your life ends. But the love, though. See, I think there's a certain real. I think St. Louis and Baltimore are very real cities. If they love you, they love you. If they don't feel you, they don't feel you. And so, luckily, I was on the love you category, and to this day, the brand or the person still, I still have a lot of love in Baltimore.
You do. And the interesting thing is because I think like what we did here when we worked together is we talked about our lives. We talked about, my depression. We talked about our weight. We talked about, me getting married and having kids. We talked about my dog. We did all that. And then you went to Baltimore and you talked about your life, which is what people,
that's the formula.
What people want to hear, though. People want to know that you have the same problems that they have and what's your solution to this problem, that you're real. And because of your, sincerity and, how you get involved in things, that was a winning formula that couldn't be stopped except for the sake of, the economy bottomed out and you got downsized.
Yeah. And right. And I think the thing was, I really genuinely, in a St. Louis and East St. Louis and in a Baltimore and even in a DC, I always did really want to know what was going on. And we really, we got involved, broadcasting live from the most dangerous blocks. When they had tragedies, we were there. And I think people, when they see you on the neighborhood, it's a neighborhoods city. And when they see you broadcasting live from their neighborhood, then it's like, okay, it's not just talk. And also, Tony, is weird. We grew up in, we say grew up in the hood, but our parents were working class people, and we know it's like, we lived in the hood, not like necessarily, the worst part of the hood, but we know we experienced that. So I think because of that, we were never afraid of it. It wasn't like a big mystery and I think that's also relayed when you're in those situations where people can see I'm not, I'm not, it's just, it is what it is. It's a neighborhood, you know what I mean? And that could be naive. In my part, especially, Springfield, like it's not the deadliest block in Springfield is can't hang with Baltimore or St. Louis, and definitely not East St. Louis. Well, actually, it can now because East St. Louis moved. But no, I'm playing. I'm serious.
So like when okay, so the radio thing ended. So what have you been doing since then?
Well, radio show ended. I had a brief TV show. Brief. I'm talking about. It was like 6 months. I did a TV show, and then Troy and I we blogged for the Baltimore Sun.
Troy Johnson for those.
Troy Johnson.
Who Troy worked in St. Louis also. He spent most of his time in production, and then he got downsized here in St. Louis, and then y'all hooked up in Baltimore and did the show with him, and then that ended. So you guys were blogging for the Baltimore Sun. Yeah,
Baltimore Sun. Troy got a talk show on the AM side. He had a talk show. Did a good job there. So that was kind of new territory. Then we got on a WHUR, which is owned by Howard University. We're on Sirius XM 141, HUR Voices, and we're on WHUR on Saturday nights, 8 to midnight, the Hang Suite. And we're up for the afternoon job at WHUR. There's been a contest that's been going on for 4 years now.
So it's
3 or 4 months now.
Right. So you can go and vote if you go to WHUR.
Well, you can't vote now.
Okay. Well, you let me know when your voting's in, and I'll tell everybody to go over there and vote.
Yes, it's a hot mess.
So, well, you know what? Now stop that because this job is still open. No decisions. No,
it is. Hey,
no
right.
decisions have been made, and you and Troy have been the only ones called back for a second run.
Yes, you can say that.
Well, I wouldn't be lying.
No, you would not be lying.
So, okay, so what else you been doing? I know you worked for a while. You worked with a guy who puts together collaborations with nonprofits around the world, because Mark one time sent me a link. He says, click this video and check this out, right? And he's probably the only, I wouldn't even do that for my wife. I wouldn't click a link she sent me, but I click him because he gets it. This dude was jogging on the beach in Dubai.
Yeah. I mean, I met a friend. It really was a friend. But again, back to the radio. We connected in the community based on the radio. He's one of these special guys. He's a businessman and a community guy and a nonprofit guy, and he happens to be Muslim. And so after the radio piece, because he respected me, and what I did on the radio and the connection to the community and to Baltimore, and at the end of the day, his goal is to purchase a portion of Baltimore and rehab and help people. He's like, look, man, I know your character. I know you're down for the same cause. So why don't you rock with me and my business, and let's see what happens. So for about a year, I did that, and we went to Dubai, we went to Qatar, the Middle East. I was, I had a chance to go to the World Cup, which is the richest horse race in the world. I had the chance to go to, like I said, to Qatar or Qatar, whatever, however you want to say it. And really on talking about U.S. Islamic relations and the world for powerful organizations. Had a chance to go to the West Coast and the venture capitalists out in San Francisco. I met Coach Bill Campbell, who is not only worked at Apple but is on the board at Intuit. Was the Steve Jobs mentor. I met him at his son's football game.
Okay.
Just hanging out. So just a whole different world. And thanks to my man Sophia Robb, and just that opened my eyes, Tony, to the entrepreneurial side of how I was such a consumer. And I think as talent, you end up being such a consumer. We get a check. And not necessarily taking advantage of the platform, because, like Tony Scott knows everybody in St. Louis. And you very rarely, if ever, ask any of those people that you've had on the radio and have used your airwaves all these years for a damn thing. No. You never, not one thing. You never, hey, and it's like, that's what business in America is. And I think that's what we just didn't do. We believed that you put together a good show, you have success, and everything else will come. And that is true, but there's that business component that we passed on, but it's still
Well,
there.
the business
my
model
point.
has changed, at least in regards to what our industry is about. You know, it used to be you work for a radio station, and you remember the day they told us a long time ago that you and I could retire from Magic once it became what they call an urban adult contemporary radio station. And the business changed since then. The people who told us that are not even there anymore. But we were told these things, and we believed them because, you know, I mean, it was true at that time. It was true. But what we didn't realize was that the business was going to change. New media was going to become such a huge force, you know,
Yes.
10 or 15 years later, and everything about it is different. So, you know, I've had to rethink some things because you're right. I do know a lot of people in St. Louis, and I do have a lot of people's phone numbers, and no, I'm not going to give them to you. But at the same time,
Hey, remember? Well, you know my phone habits.
yeah, well,
Not
well,
that good.
But but you have to like think about in terms of what else can you do, you know? And the thing
Yeah.
is,
Well,
and one thing that I admire about you is that ever since you left the everyday wars of radio, which has been how long now? It's been about 6 years
yeah.
that you have not worked.
Let me ask my wife. Hold on.
It's been too long.
Exactly.
But you have not sat on your butt though. You have
No,
hustled.
well-
You have hustled and done everything you can, you know,
Yeah.
to provide for your family.
Try.
Well,
to.
I mean,
Yeah.
but you're
Yes.
not sitting at home collecting an unemployment check.
No, thank goodness. Yes, that there's some alternative. My family would weigh 10 pounds at this point. They were depending on me. Oh no, we got some other. Thank goodness.
Well, but
the wife got a decent gig. Baby.
she's got a wonderful job. She's a wonderful woman, though.
She
She
really
is.
is. And you know, Tony, I think at the end of the day, I think with the entrepreneur stuff that we're talking about, I think what I realized is every individual has to have a way to use your skill set to get paid, because that's phrase that that seems like a cliche. You can't pay me what I'm worth. You really can't. You know, I think like look at you. I mean, Tony Scott in radio in St. Louis, you can't really put a value on what that name means to the market from a standpoint of a place where, it's almost like Ray Lewis with the Ravens. You know what I mean? You've been in the market. You can't really think about the station without you being a part of it.
Yeah.
And how much is that? How much value does that have? You really can't pay you what it's worth. Now, the difference nowadays, like you said, Tony, and it's not even just nowadays. We just weren't playing that game. Is imagine if you were the same, but you owned
Right.
it. You know what I mean? When you own it, nobody can pull the carpet from underneath
Right.
you.
And that's where you and I are now in working with
Exactly.
new media and things like that. And I am so in love with new media because I think I tell everybody all the time, it levels the playing field. You know, when you and I got into radio, if you wanted to be in radio, you had to go work at a radio station, same for TV. And now
Right.
you can create your own. Now it's a situation where using the internet, you can create your own platform to get your voice out there. And I've been
Right.
doing research now for a couple of months because I want to do a video showing people that you can do this and you don't need like a lot of equipment. Most of the equipment you probably already have, right?
Yeah.
And so I've been working on something like that and plan to have it out sometime this summer, hopefully. But what I want to get to though is because you and we're similar in a lot of ways, right? We're husbands, we're fathers, we're sons. But the father thing, we're very similar, but we're at different stages, right?
Yeah.
I have a 29-year-old daughter, I have an 18-year-old daughter, and I have a 13-year-old daughter. Now, how old are your daughters?
I have a 12, soon to be 13 in December, 11 and 8, going to be 9.
Well, you had them bam, 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 didn't you? Bam, 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 bam.
Man, bam, 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 and a couple bams, sadly.
Well, you know.
But
So how has it been having 3 girls?
man, I gotta tell you, man, the girls it's amazing. I mean, it's like my wife and my 3 girls, they have, especially in these trying times, have been just a breath of fresh air. You know, my wife is so supportive. And then the daughter piece is, your kids are a reflection of you. And so it's just funny them coming to their own and from the, from who they are from a standpoint of character and their talent. And it's just, most of the time, it's just very, I find myself just always emotional and always just in awe of their talents. And then their grandparents, my mother still lives in Springfield, so she sadly doesn't get to see them as often as she would like. But Allison's parents are here.
Wonderful
and,
people.
They
wonderful
also,
people.
Exactly. They, that's so important, and so Dad, their grandfather is a, former high school principal, former Peace Corps, he's a minister, kind of an old sage, and someone who loves history and loves religion and loves life. And then, the grandmother is equally, she was also in the Peace Corps and as a, intellectual, but at the same time, the kind of person who will like thrift shop. And
See, well,
you know what I mean?
But you know what's really cool, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I will. I mean, I know a lot of things about you, and you grew up without your father in your life. So for me to hear you refer to your father-in-law as Dad makes me feel so good, because now you have someone to call Dad.
Yeah, that's true, Tony. That's true. And it's like, almost like a divine intervention, as far as there's no doubt about it. I mean, when Dad got into a car accident, and so how, again, nothing happens for, everything happens for a reason. They were in a car accident right when I got in. I was let go at the station in 2008 November.
You got let go the day that Obama won the election.
the next day.
Yeah.
Obama.
Yeah.
Huh, what?
Mark sent me a text saying, "I just got blown out." Obama.
Yes, that Thursday, my brother.
Yeah.
And so they got in a car accident like that weekend. And so they then had to live with us. And so in doing that, we had to care for them. And Dad, who was in a car accident, ironically, they were in a car accident 40 years almost to the day. And he started to have some issues, probably because of the head injury, as far as his ability to handle, be able to walk and and let's be steady on his feet and things like that. So here they were with us, and I had to really I had to help him shower and pick him up and help him do this and do that. And so in that moment, we just really became obviously super close. But like you said, it's almost like, again, doing things for him that people just rarely have to do that. But it's a whole different, puts you on a whole different relationship level.
Well, I know that when my father died 3 years ago, I remember when I talked to you, the first time I talked to you after that, you asked me what happened, and I told you, and I think I talked for like 20 minutes, and you didn't interrupt me one time. You just listened. And that's what a brother does for a brother to me, I mean, I don't think I could ever tell anybody just how important you are to me. Even, we've been talking a lot more lately, but, I could not talk to you for 6 months and I would still love you the same way, and it's just like one of those things that you and I have this connection that has never changed. And we've had discussions, we've had debates, we had arguments when you worked here, but at the end of the day, it was all love, and it never changed. I think you changed me more than I changed you as a man.
But you opened up, or you were going through your change. I think you were just going. I met you at a time when you were going through change.
Yeah, but you showed me a lot, though.
Well, but then you always opened your arms. See, the thing that you did for me was always provided that couch, always provided that ear, always provided that extra $5. Always, I was a part of. You let me be a part of your life. And I know you're not the kind of person who just lets people do that. You know what I'm saying? You're very guarded. But when it came to me, anything I needed, if it was use your car, whatever, I had.
And it's still that way, though. I told him many times he's come to St. Louis and was going to go to Springfield, take my truck. You don't need to rent a truck. Just take mine.
And I was in an age, I was kind of in that age where, I needed that. You know what I mean? I needed somebody to be my brother. And so it was definitely mutually beneficial. And it was, and I've been blessed, Tony, because to have that, you know, to have that in my life, and then, like I said, with my father-in-law and even different friends, it's just been amazing, amazing. And your wife, Deshauna, same thing. I mean, you guys opened up your home to me, basically from day one. I remember when, you were off and they brought Tony, you're on vacation, they brought you in to meet me. I was thinking, damn, he's on vacation. Why? He
well,
looks like he's at home. He's at home.
I did. I came in on vacation to meet Mark. So yeah.
And it was like, damn, he's coming in on vacation? Yeah. Okay.
Well, but at the time, though, I mean, because Kevin Woodson was my partner, and he left to go work for Tom Joyner in Dallas. And so...
it was a nice little reference with him. Tom Joyner.
But...
It was true, but it was I like the little name
So
drop.
It was a big...
Tom Joyner. But anyway.
Replacing him was a big deal. This is a man who is very funny, who is very well read, is very opinionated, not to the point where he's, obnoxious or anything, but he has opinions about stuff. And very well loved. And he was born and raised here in St. Louis. So to replace him was going to take a special person. It was going to take some doing. So when our program director, Chuck Atkins, at the time said that, this is who I got, I had to come in and see who this person was, and I think you and I we've been close really ever since. I mean, I've told you things that I know you've never told anybody except maybe Allison, and that's fine. And there are things that you've told me that I broadcasted on the radio. So it's like for the radio. But back to our daughters. So Sydney is the oldest; she's 13.
That's right.
My oldest is 29, but here at the house, my oldest is Olivia, who is 18. And have you had to have any talks with her about boys?
Well, it's funny. Today, one jumped off. We were shopping with Grandma and her uncle and her sisters, and my middle child ratted her out about texting a boy or texting boys. So it was like, what? So yeah, we're going to have a conversation. We're having a family conversation. We hadn't really talked about that, and I had to laugh because that's probably our the first little teenage moment, and it's the world now with all this social media. It's funny. And I think knowing what we know makes it probably worse because we know. We know what boys want, and we know that in reality, you can't really, you have to build trust with them because you can be Mr. Hardcore Lockdown if you want to, but there's just access to it. You could say if they have a cell phone, you could say, okay, you can't text boys. You're gonna police that, you can't email boys. You could say, look, you can't do this, and then you randomly check it. But you can do that, but they can also, they could also have an email account that you're not even aware of that they check at school or check somewhere else. So knowing what we know that you're setting yourself up for. So these are questions that our parents it was simpler back then, Nobody called the house.
That was it.
And you didn't have a cell phone.
You either call the house or you came to the house. But now you got texting, you got email, different email accounts, like you said, you got social media and all this stuff like this. So do you think like in your 13-year-old's case, if she'd have been 15, would it be a different conversation?
You know what? I think the only issue, and she got really emotional. But the only issue really was that I think we hadn't talked about it. You know what I mean? And she probably casually talked about it with her mom, but we hadn't talked about it. So it kind of caught me off guard. I thought it was funny that her sister threw her under the bus. I thought that was
funny. Well, that's
funny.
what little sisters are for, though.
That's what they do, right? That's what they do.
Yeah.
And so I think in reality, what you have to do is just have to trust, and you have to be honest with each other. I mean, totally. I think totally honest to the point of you even being uncomfortable, because I think when your daughter's 13 and shapely and beautiful and all that stuff, we all know what boys want. We all know. I mean, and so I think the days of sugarcoating that are over. which is kind of sucks. But I know the next conversation will be pretty real,
Well,
because it's like, well, I don't understand. It was like, I don't understand what's the difference between a boy and a girl. There's three things. Three things
that's
that are
right.
different.
The left one, the right one. Well, I mean, Olivia's 18, and I've had conversations with her for many years, and I've told her, and recently, because she's getting ready to start college, I've told her even more so now. I said, look, because she didn't have a boyfriend in high school. She got asked out a couple times, but it wasn't no what she was interested in, so she turned them down. But she's been so focused on dance. She loves to dance, but she's also getting ready to start a new phase in her career. And I told her, I said, you're a good-looking kid. I said, there's going to be guys going to come up to you. I said, so, let me tell you something. I said, your first date with a guy is lunch in the daytime. I says, and when you go, you have money in your pocket and you have your phone charged completely. And you tell somebody where you're going. You don't have to tell me or your mom, but tell somebody. Tell somebody. And I even told her, I said, call your Uncle Mark, call your sister AJ in Texas, just say, hey, I'm going out and have lunch, meet a guy for lunch. Here's where I'm going to be. Because if you feel like you can't tell us, which I don't know why you couldn't tell us, you should be able to do that. But we've had these conversations for a while, and it's probably something that for you is going to be coming up. I mean, would you say that your 13-year-old is boy crazy?
No.
Not by.
No, she, like you said, I think the blessing of the dance, the discipline is really not that there's not that much time. I mean, I think our kids, have been so busy by design that, yeah, it's definitely, I think, the hormones are kicking in and stuff, but I think it's not like they have a lot of downtime to just be doing that. And I think actually the reason she got a little upset today probably was because she felt like I was being a bit unfair because I was assuming that, almost like I didn't trust her. So that's why I told her we'll talk about it later on, because that's not really the case either. You know what I mean? It's just that it was one of those things where, you have to almost have a game plan. And we've been lucky because it wasn't forced, but it's about that. You got to have a game, you got to have a system. Since I got 19 girls.
So how much of it do you think she was?
I need to write the book. I have a whole pamphlet here. Y'all need to read the Bible, the family Bible
right.
of, references. If you this, then that,
So,
and I just think I've been, lazy.
How much of it do you think was her being embarrassed because her sister ratted her out?
Yeah, that, and then my reaction. Because I didn't.
Well, to be fair, did you overreact?
I probably, yeah. I probably could have did the same thing, because all I did was basically say we need to talk about it. I could have done it the same way, without embarrassing.
Oh, you did it. You did it in front of her sisters and in front of everybody.
Oh yeah, everybody, grandma, everybody was there in the car. So it was like, and so I was like, what?
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, looking back, I could have done the same thing, but the cool thing about it again is because we don't see. I think one of my philosophies, and we'll see, marriage and with the kids, right? It's all about, and relationships. Our morning show. You really, when you're close, when you're on the same page, and there's no distance, then we never had distance. So nothing really becomes that big of a deal because you have a certain closeness that keeps everything tight, Now, when you start having distance, you don't know, neither party knows what's going on. That's when all the craziness happens. I think in marriage, with your kids, whatever, if you have no idea, and I think that was probably what my reaction probably was, I didn't have an idea, you know what I mean? And so I was out of the loop. So I probably was a little frustrated and didn't play it off because I know that's the key. Yeah. If we're not on the same page and someone's out of the loop, then that's when things get crazy, because then it's like, well, I didn't know, versus, I know, if we had talked about it already and I was like, oh, I'm aware of it. And now we're just having the conversation of, all right, just kind of like monitoring and making sure everybody's doing their thing. So that's one of my philosophies with family is just keep, if you're close, just like, because after we had that, we were shopping 10 minutes later, she was
Yeah.
fine, and I was fine. Let her know I was fine, and so we'll talk about it. Not tonight, probably
You wake her
tomorrow
up 3
night.
in the morning. I need to talk about it now.
Exactly. Right. Right. Yeah. Right. Right. Right.
Hey, what kind of father do you think you'd have been if you had a son, or all sons, or two sons, or what kind of father do you think you'd have been to a son?
I think the funny thing about dads and sons, I think a couple times we thought we were gonna have a boy. I found myself in the weight room more, like, yeah, uh-huh. Get that boy, get that boy. I was like, why am I bench pressing right
Yeah.
now? I think because I think you feel like a certain like you want to teach them how to be a man. You want them to you want the father to be that strong man, that Superman. And then also, I just think having girls, I think it just seems like it's less complex with boys. You just punch them in the chest. You can say stuff like "shut up" and feel bad about it. Shut up. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Push them down. And then I mean, I'm the last of my line, Tony. So it's a wrap, buddy.
But you know what?
Yeah, having
Well,
a boy-
I guess I am too. Well, you know what? I guess I'm not. I do have a first cousin who's a guy but he has a daughter. He doesn't have a son. But his brother has two sons. But then,
Okay.
when my father died, I found out about this whole other family that was 30 miles from where we grew up, and there's a lot of people with my name.
Quit playing.
Yeah, there's a lot of relatives with my name.
I think I heard this one, brother.
and
What?
and I met some of my cousins. We took Olivia down to the University of Houston for a college visit, and I had been in contact with them through Facebook and things like that. And one of them threw a kind of like a little barbecue for us. So we went there, took my mom with me, and my wife and my girls, and even all my girls and my grandson. We all went, and the one who threw it looks a lot like my sisters, and it's just there. And recently, for Father's Day, I posted a picture, and they saw it and they go, "That my God, that looks just like my brother." Is what my dad's first cousin said.
Wow.
Her brother passed away in the 90s, but she goes, they look alike. They could be brothers, and so having this whole other family kind of like has opened my eyes, especially once he died, it really put me on a search to find out about this other family. And I found out a lot. But it also made my sisters and myself, we Skype every Sunday.
Oh, so you guys are
Yeah,
closer.
and my dad had told me, you need to looking on your mom, and I do. I talk to her 3 times a week, So we're all very close now, and so it's one of those things that But I tell you, man, I never thought that I would have 3 daughters. I thank God every day that I have them, because they're all different in their own way. AJ's 29, and
Well, I was gonna ask you about, so AJ, a baby when we worked together. So and the fact that AJ, you were in another city. How do you deal with that aspect? I know that used to eat you up in a lot of ways when we worked together, but there has to be a kind of a thing where you got to let that go.
But you know what? I've never let it go.
Okay, so is that what happens? There's always kind of that feeling.
I will always have regret that I wasn't able to be with her every day like I'm able to be with Olivia and Maria. That bothers me a lot. I think when she was a kid, I overcompensated on birthdays and Christmases for that reason. I mean, for Christmas when she was like 8 years old, we would budget like $2,000, for one child. You know what I'm saying? We would, but just go nuts, and it was one of those things where it's hard. It was hard, and it still is. I mean, in a perfect world, she'd be living here and with her grandson. I mean, with my grandson, with her son, but it's tough. It's been tough. I think about her all the time. And hoping that she's doing well. We talk, and I'm very proud of her because she has found her life. You know, she's 29 and
Mm-hmm.
she has a job. She's getting ready to buy a house. She's doing all these things that, moving into the next phase of her life, and found a guy that she's settling down with, and I'm happy for her. And we've talked. There were times. I mean, you had to remember AJ lost her mom when she was a senior in high school to leukemia,
Mm.
and so for about 6 months I didn't hear anything from her. And then we started talking, and I think we're pretty close. And we talk fairly often, and when I'm there, of course, I see her and I see my grandson Latrell, but it's a whole different dynamic though, dealing with an adult child versus children who are not. Now Olivia's 18 now, so it's a little different. But it's just, and then you have to remember, I also have a 13-year-old that I cannot talk to like an 18-year-old. And the 18 and the 29-year-old, yeah, I can kind of talk to them the same kind of way, up to a
Mm-hmm.
point. But my 13-year-old, it's very important to me that she stay a kid for as long as she can.
Yeah.
And I tell Olivia that all the time. I said, don't be in a hurry to grow up, because you're going to have to be grown up way longer than you're going to be a kid. No
Yeah.
rush there. No
That's-
rush there, Junior. So, but
yeah, that's true. There's certain kind of protection, and and sadly in this day and age, you have to be real on a certain level, so that you hate for that innocence to go, but it's like it can work against you too, in this day and age. So it's like.
So how would you grade yourself as a dad?
I think I'm a good dad. I'm probably I think I'm a good dad in that. I pretty much, I do a good job of saying I love you. I do listen.
See, I learned that from you. Saying I love you. I even say it to you.
Yeah,
You know.
we say it to each other.
And
hard ankle Tony Scott says I love you. It's funny.
And you know what? I think because of you, and this just actually just hit me. And you know me, I don't say things just to say things, but the last thing I told my father was that I loved him. And I learned that from you, and I think that brings me great peace with him being gone. I mean, I miss him and all that, but I know he's not in any more pain. But the last thing I told my father was, I love you, right? And he said, yeah, I do. I said, all right, man, I'll see you later. That was it, dude. That was the last thing I ever said to him. And you taught me that. But you give yourself an A, a B plus, A minus.
I give myself a modest A.
Okay.
The funny thing about and that's pretty arrogant to give yourself an A.
No, that's being honest.
I think you know what it is, because I think at the end of the day, they know that I don't know all the answers. In fact, they'll tell me I don't know all the answers. See, my father-in-law does know a lot of answers, and I don't. So it's kind of like there's no pressure. You know what I mean? He knows everything. Right. I don't know much. So what you do know is that you know that I love you. They know that I love them. They know that I will listen to them. They know that I will say I'm sorry. They know that I want the very best for them, and they know that they can tell me anything, and I won't. There's nothing they could say to me ever to change my love.
Yeah.
My love.
But what happened today?
Yeah. The love. No, and that's the other part. The grumpiness.
Yeah.
Because I'm so grumpy a lot, they don't really listen to that. So they know that even in those moments that it has nothing to do with my love for them. It's just that Dad's being grumpy or Dad's being a jerk. But I think and so in those moments, and we all have them, and it's funny. It's funny what things push your buttons. Because Allison was cracking on me because the baby. I think my wife feels like I'm harder on Sydney, but really it's because Sydney's at that age so if she says something smart, I probably will snap more quickly than if the baby says something smart. So in the car today, also because the baby is funny, sometimes
Marquita, she's Marquita Clarke, man.
She may get a pass. Yeah. So today we got some Chipotle and they're eating in the car. And I said, she was eating it. I said, smack much? She said, comment much? So, so of course, my middle child ran and told mom, and she's like, so, what she said, and said Dad didn't get mad at her, and Alice was like, if Sydney said the same thing, you would have got mad at her. And I said, you're right, probably, because in that moment, it was I've been snapping all afternoon. We were in the car for like 6 hours, and so they were driving me crazy. But that was such a funny line. I let that one pass, but that was pretty funny.
So if you had to decide which of the three was going to follow into the family business, it would be the youngest one then.
Interesting. See, they're interesting because they're all talented. Sydney's an amazing performer, but she can be camera shy. Skylar is an amazing performer, and she's not camera shy. And then Baby is an amazing performer, but she sometimes will kind of wilt sometimes. So they all could do it if they wanted to. It's just interesting how there's different aspects. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're all like Skylar, Sydney's the dancer, like Olivia, amazing dancer like Olivia. Skylar was Dorothy in the production of The Wizard of Oz, and then Spencer's like she's like this amazing little tap dancer.
She opened for Kevin Hart when he was in D.C. So
exactly. Yeah. So and so same thing. When these kids, man, like with Olivia, to see her little, a fur ball when she first comes, and then see her dance and her interpretation of something now, just amazing. It's just like unbelievable. It's just like it's hard to, and so Olivia for me was, I guess, like my first baby, really, because I'm single, and you ask me, and I'm like, okay, now my grade is a Godfather, more like a D.
And
trying to work toward that strong.
And she's still looking out the window, man. It's been 10 years. She's still waiting for you to show up, man.
Oh my goodness, I am the worst Godfather.
But you know what? She knows that you love her, and
I love her. I'm just the worst Godfather. I'm a bad man.
Boy, but she doesn't mind because you make it up financially, man. Mark be sending her like hundreds of dollars and stuff. It's like
when I catch up. Birthday.
Oh, man. Oh. But it's cool though. But she loves you, and she knows that she means a lot to you, and she talks about you a lot, and so she understands, and she understands.
Olivia,
huh?
Olivia and Maria remind me of Sydney and Skylar. It's weird. I thought they were closer in age because they act like they're closer in age than they are, don't they? Yeah. But they reminded me of their relationship because it almost felt like. Like they just had each other's back, and that Maria admired Olivia, but she's the baby, and so the baby, and so, and that's the other part, man. Seeing people, you sometimes pattern, relationships.
Right.
I mean, I saw how, I was in my 20s. I'm in St. Louis. You have your babies, your additional babies after AJ, and there's a certain kind of lifestyle you want for your kids, man. There's a certain kind of comfort that you want to provide for your children. And you guys were that example before I had them. And so when I had them, that played a part of it too, And I think that's that's where it could go either way. Some people have it the opposite way, where they have chaos and disorder, and they almost accept that. Like, well, hey, that's fine. No, I think chaos, that was not acceptable.
Well, you know what?
Tony had shirts to iron. There could be no chaos.
But growing up, we had rules. And some of them we've adopted here in our house, and one of the ones that we have is we don't yell in this house. There's no yelling in this house. You got a problem, you talk. You don't yell. If you yell and I'm home, I'm gonna shut you down. And I've told them before, you don't want me to yell because when I yell, the walls vibrate. And I let them know that, it's about respect. I will respect you and I will give you space. But I tell them all the time, as a parent, there's only so much space that I can give you before I have to start doing things, and I will trust you, but also need you to understand that when I do something, in regards to you, I'm doing it because not because I feel like I'm obligated to do it. I feel like I'm doing it because I got to save you from yourself. That's what parents do. We save you from yourself. Otherwise, you'd be in just a mess. And if you don't believe me, I can introduce you to all your second cousins down in Texas. You know, you know. So it's kind of like one of those things, but it's a learning process. You know, people say all the time that being a parent doesn't come with a handbook. Well, you know what, it does now because everybody's written books about it.
Yeah.
But not every book applies to every situation, and every child's different. So
Yeah.
it's kind of one of those things.
What do you give yourself as a parent?
I give myself like a B,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm the first one to admit I'm a very selfish person when it comes to what I do for a living, and what I do for a living because of how I'm hardwired, that I put a lot of energy into work, and because of that, my wife picks up the slack, and she does a lot of stuff that allows me to work on what I do for a living, which is creating content for the radio show, and now creating content for my video projects takes up time, takes up money, but at the same time, I've been fortunate enough to where I've been able to provide them with a certain lifestyle, and but could I be a better father? Oh yeah, I could be a better father, and I work at it, and I take time to talk to them, and I do talk to them, and we do talk about a lot of things, and but yeah, I think probably as a husband, I would probably give myself like a B minus, because I think that. As and people always think that I'm exaggerating about this. I don't have a high sex drive. I never have had a high sex drive. I'm not Mr. Romance. I never have been Mr. Romance. I'm not affectionate. I'm affectionate to my children, but I'm not that guy. You've always known that about me, and you've always laughed about that. I don't understand. Your wife's beautiful and all that stuff. Well, yes, she is beautiful, But I happen to be very in love with her, and have been in love with her for many years, many years. So but I don't feel like I have to make out with her 3 times a week, or even 1 time a week, she would say. But I mean, but I work and I focus on other things, and it's just one of those things. So so I give myself a higher grade as a father than a husband. Whether she'd agree or not, I don't know, but.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, there's so much room to improve on all levels. That A I gave myself as a dad, I might bump it down to a B. Because there's a lot of improvement, and it's just funny. Like, there's certain things. The thing that's cool about having multiple kids is like the baby. The other night, Allison, who has to get up at 4:00 in the morning, she's supposed to be asleep, but mothers are never asleep, and so my baby. School, they just got out yesterday, so they could be up all night, And so, but it was, time to go to bed. So the baby, my excuse for not reading a book a lot of times is you need to go to bed. So the baby's like, Daddy, would you read me a bedtime story? I'm like, nope. Alice was like, come on. I'm like, wait, I thought you were supposed to be asleep. Read a short one. And I'm like, you know what? And I did, because those moments go by so quick, man. Like I love, how that 8 years old is a cool age. 8, 7, 6, 7, those are cool ages, because they're smart, but they're still babies, But then you look up and they're 13, and then it's like, they don't, and then they got boobs, and it's like, wow.
Tell me about it.
So, my goal this summer is to read as many books as I can, to do stuff with them, to really spend some quality time, because I just see how fleeting it really is. It's like, wow, man, you look up and those kids are grown, man. And it's like dads have a tendency, like, so let's say you take them to the park. We'll get on the phone and then they'll be playing. No, you got to engage.
Yeah, you got to leave. You got to leave the phone in the car.
You have to. You're at the park. Y'all got to play at the park. You're right. At the whatever. You have to engage. I think dads sometimes, good dads, because shoot, we're ahead of the pack. Most dads ain't been around. So,
well, I wouldn't say most dads.
I
would say a lot of. I wouldn't say most dads.
You don't have to say most. All you got to do is look at the numbers.
Well, yeah, but I think that's
That's going
well,
down.
it's going down, but it's still. I think we're still in the majority, though. I really do. I do. No, I really do.
No.
I really do.
It's not even
No,
close.
I mean, but see, I think it's not.
Dads
I think
of-
it's not really
Tony,
close.
dads of color,
But
man,
Dads
come
of
on,
Color
man.
covers a lot of
Between-
people, though. That covers.
Well, your people, the Hispanic people, are holding up the numbers.
No, I wouldn't even say that. But you
The
know what? But
brothers-
no, man, because you know what? I talk to a lot of people on social media, and there's a lot of guys out there, and a lot of women who say, "I love my husband. He's such a great father," and things like. There's a lot of them to do that. Are there a lot that don't? Absolutely. We
Tony,
spent a lot of time.
It's Tony. That's us. Okay.
That's for
don't fall into the
that's
trap.
for another conversation. Because you know
don't fall into
the
the
cool
trap.
thing is that Mark and I think we've decided that we're going to try and do this once a week.
Yep.
You know, where we're going to talk about our daughters and we're going to talk about just life. I mean, I think I'm older than Mark and I'm at a different point I think than he is. Not by far, but a little bit. You know, I have 2 adult daughters. He's got 3 minor daughters. 3.
Man, you can't. Olivia's an adult already.
18, you know, she's 18 years old, and she announced to us a couple weeks ago that for spring break this year, her first college spring break, she was going to California to dance. I was like, well, how you getting there?
I like that announcement. Daddy, you're not gonna get there,
She had to
Daddy.
hit up on her godfather. Is what she gonna do? You know, and it's like, man, I don't know. She asked me, she goes, "What are you gonna? How are you gonna act the first time I bring a boy home?" I said, "Well, we've budgeted. The bail money's been in a separate account for quite a few years now." I says, and pray that your Uncle Mark ain't here because you did you see Bad Boys 2 with Will and Martin? I said, this is gonna be the unedited version. So but it's interesting, man, because I think I'm at a point now, my journey with God and my journey as a man and my journey as a father is so important to me now. I tell people, when I first came to work in St. Louis radio, because I've been in here 25 years, but I've been in radio over 30 years. I just wanted to be the clown on the radio. And now I've always believed that your life has to evolve. If your life doesn't evolve, something's wrong. And now I can still have fun on the radio, but I also believe that I can use this platform for other things. So that's kind of like where I am now. I used to do, when I first started doing YouTube videos, I used to do like stupid ass news, and then I started doing the Ratchet Report, and I got to thinking, you know what? That ain't me anymore. That's not where I am anymore. I've evolved, and yeah, I like to laugh, and yeah, I like to talk about stupid things, but there are also other things to do too, So that's where I am now. But Mark and I are going to try and do this at least once a week, probably not for this long. But we're going to talk about, just being a father, and maybe sometimes we can invite other people on to join us and things like that. But it's going to be a once a week type thing where we can just talk about our experiences as being a dad. Because I think both of us, and from Mark's perspective, we're a rare breed. That we're happily married men and enjoy being a husband and a father.
Yeah, and again, I'm not trying to, guys get real sensitive. My thing is, when you're a good dad, you're a good dad. We ain't talking about you. We're talking about the bad dad.
Yeah. But that's where you and I go different paths.
Why are
though.
people so why are people so sensitive? Like, you don't need, when anybody says something about being a bad father, you don't even listen to it because it's not you. And I think that's the problem. I think we have to get past that. You know what I mean? But so yes, and for those fathers who are bad fathers, listen. We got great advice. At the end of the day, I think at the end of the day, I think marriage and being a father is wanting to be there.
Yeah,
wanting to be there, respecting what it is to be there, understanding the power, and how at the end of the day, this is what life is about. This is your team. You're coaching, you're helping to coach your team. And
well, you're setting the pace for how many generations?
Exactly.
At least 3, because your daughters are going to grow up. They're going to be parents. They're going to be grandparents, and God willing, they'll make it to at least being great grandparents. Yeah. And you're setting that path for them now as to what kind of person to be, what kind of man to be looking for, these things like that. All this stuff matters, not just now, but it's going to matter 50, 60, 70 years from now.
And I'll say this: with my wife. I have an amazing wife.
Yeah.
And the relationship that she has with her dad, something I thought about that I was like, wow, you know, how women feel about their father, like you said, Tony, because it is that relationship, their first relationship with a man. So, I lose my gig in 2008, and I've been hustling ever since. But the fact that my wife loves her father so much and believes in him so much makes her love and believe in me so much. So why some women, that instant attitude probably would have been when I lost that six-figure job, I don't know, I don't know. Or when opportunity after opportunity fell through, I don't know if this is going to work or not. That's the first thing a lot of people think about. That's not where my wife's mind went. Why? Because her belief in her father. So as fathers, that's what you're instilling in your daughters. If you're a no count, undependable, not honest, not a good character guy, that's the kind of person your daughter is going to believe that men are. If you're not, then so that hit me, and it was like that got me one day. I was like, wow, it was like, wow, that's deep, because that's it. Because that's what she feels. She doesn't have that negative image of a man that a lot of people have, that don't believe or feel like somebody's trying to hustle them. Because that's not where she's coming from. Now, if something doesn't happen the next couple of years, then
no, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. So
by Friday, if nothing happens, then
it's gonna be good, man.
I'm playing.
You're gonna be fine.
I'm just playing.
So you know what? I don't know what day of the week it'll be every week, but we'll settle into a pattern or a pattern in due time. And
I've used that joke since St. Louis. I'm sorry, man. I'm gonna quit dusting off the oldies.
That's all right, man. But we'll figure out a certain day once we get we got to hit our rhythm, and I think we'll be good. So that'll be great, man. So a good first episode though, man.
Hey, man, had a blast as always. Always love talking to you. I love everybody's watching. Appreciate you, and we really do. I mean, that's the thing. That's something else with the social media piece, Tony. A like or a view, or people who just took time to enjoy this or not enjoy it, we really do appreciate it.
Yeah. Subscribing and all that stuff means a lot.
Because that means a lot, and not just for us to get rich, but I think it's kind of like it's just this the support. Support.
Yeah, that's what it is, and we do this because we love it, because I've done almost 130 videos. I've made $59.
Go ahead, son.
I do this because I love to do it, not because I'm making any money. So it's a passion. So any thumbs up or subscription or a view is appreciated. Share it. Whatever you can do is great. So if you got a comment, we'll take that. If it's a bad comment, your mama.
And prospective advertisers.
Yeah. That's true too.
We will do anything for we're pimp. We'll
Absolutely.
Pimp. You can pimp us if you like.
Absolutely. No. So that is Marc Clarke, and we will see you next week. We'll come up with a name for the show, and then we'll go from there.